Hello everyone, I am Dr. Dwivedi, Head of the School of Liberal Arts and Human Sciences at AURO University, Surat. We welcome you all to the day 2 of this virtual conference titled Imagining the Post-Coronavirus World, during which we would have 8 technical sessions. Look forward to have an exciting session ahead. To start off the day, we have a guest of eminent repute with us. I welcome you, Vinay sir, for giving us time from your very busy schedule. And we look forward to your exciting talk ahead. Over to the Dean Academics, Professor Rohit Singh, who will welcome you. Rohit sir.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Om. It's my pleasure and privilege to welcome Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe sir. Sir is guiding many of the institutions and teachers like us in framing the policies and coming out with solutions for the higher education in India. Sir, this is the second day for our 2-day virtual international conference on imagining the post-corona world. We have had a total of around 13 sessions yesterday, and we are going ahead with 9 and 10 more today. And we had a very good discussion from the people from different parts of the world. And we are sure that we are learning from this process of having a virtual conferences also. And on behalf of the Honorable President Shri H.P. Rama sir, Vice Chancellor sir, Professor Velukar, and all the school heads, it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome you into this conference. Thank you so much for joining, sir. Dr. Dwivedi.
Vishakha.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. Welcome all to the 14th technical session of this conference, and this is the second day of it. So we have today with us the esteemed speaker, Dr. Vinay Sahasrabuddhe. Sir is the President of Indian Council for Cultural Relations, ICCR, and also the Member of Parliament, Rajya Sabha. He is the founder director of Rambhoi Malgi Prabodhini, RMP. This is a unique Mumbai-based institute engaged in the capacity building of elected representatives for the last 35 years. Currently, Dr. Sahasrabuddhe is the Vice Chairman of the Indian School Responsibility Network, ISRN, a researcher and governance. Dr. Sahasrabuddhe holds doctorate in political science from the University of Mumbai. He is also a regular columnist and with over half a dozen English, Marathi, and Hindi credits since 2014. He is the National Vice President of the Bharatiya Janata Party, that is BJP. The moderator for today's session is Dr. Bashabi Fraser, who is a professor emerite and the co-founder and director of the Scottish Centre of Tagore Studies at Edinburg, Napier University. Bashabi is also a Royal Literary Fund Fellow at the University of Dundee and an honorary fellow at the Centre of South Asian Studies at the University of Edinburgh. Bashabi is the chief editor of the academic and creative e-journal Gitanjali and Beyond. She is a poet, children's writer, editor, and translator, and has edited and written about 22 books, has several published articles and chapters, both in academics and creative writing, and is widely anthological. She lives and writes in Edinburgh. So I will pass it on to the moderator now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah, and welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you. The Government of Maharashtra Award for the Best Literary Work in 1998. So I look forward to looking for your books in the future. Today, Dr. Sahasrabuddhe is going to give our distinguished talk, beginning our day in the best possible way, talking about enhancing India's soft power, prospective and retrospective. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Bashabi Fraser, Dr. Om Dwivedi, Professor Rohit Singh, and young academic Vishakha who introduced me. I believe Professor Velukar is also there. All
Yeah.
other members of the academic community and participants of this very unique interactive seminar of this AURO University. Let me begin with thanking you all for having invited me to share my thoughts with you, because your university and the work that the institution is carrying out is very important in the context of India's cultural and civilizational values, and therefore it's a pleasure and it's an honor as well to be here amongst all of you. So let me at the outset thank you all. The subject of India's soft power, especially in the context of the COVID-19 crisis and how exactly the world is going to be after this crisis, after we overcome this crisis universally, uh, this particular subject becomes very relevant in the context of our own idea of soft power. But before I speak about the Indian perspective of soft power, let me go back into the history and explain you as to how exactly I look at the emergence of the concept of soft power sometime in 1990. As you would realize that before 1990, when Professor Joseph Nye, director at that point of time of the Kennedy School of Government of the Harvard University, used this term soft power. Earlier, there was no reference to this kind of a concept. And in a way, it was natural, because the term soft power was used during 1919s as there is a particular historical context, I would put it in this way as a student of international relations. Because, you know, by 1990, about more than 40 years were passed after the Second World War. The United Nations as a universal body, as a global body, was firmly established. And people by that time had realized that occupying enemy land, occupying geographical regions had its own limitations, because military might itself had its own limitations. People had realized that the war in the days to come will not be the conventional war which the world witnessed earlier in the previous century, twice in fact, First World War and the Second World War. And therefore, the element of establishing your hegemony kind of in your own region, or maybe even globally, those ways and means for that have now been altered. I mean, there was a realization about that. One more reason for this realization perhaps was the end of the United States of Soviet Russia, USSR. Because post-USSR, in fact, in a way, I would say, the talk of Cold War was given a full stop. There wasn't any kind of two superpower kind of concept. And therefore, the competition to establish hegemony also had its own limitations post 1988, after the USSR ceased to exist. Although we have the Russian Federation, we have other countries as well, but USSR as such, which otherwise was in a position to challenge the hegemony of the United States of America, was no more there. And therefore, perhaps on the setting of these two developments, it was very natural that people started thinking about as to what are the ways and means of influencing the global community. And therefore, the entire shift was from occupying geographical spaces to influencing the mind spaces, to influence the thinking, to influence the value system. And therefore, people found it that there was little point in occupying a geographical area, a geographical space, and perhaps what was more important was to occupy the mind space, because that was the way in this particular context to influence the way of thinking of the entire global community. And therefore, it is in this context, I believe, the term soft power came into existence sometime in 1990. Now, when we look at the current scenario of occupying mind space and influencing the global thinking, what do we witness? We witness, and it was realized by several men of letters, men of creative arts, and several individuals who were kind of philosophers and thinkers as well. For example, it was this particular realization perhaps made noted columnist Thomas Friedman write about the flattening of the world. And we know about his book that the world is flat. Why did he realize that? Many of you must have visited Beijing. Few of you also must have visited Tel Aviv. When I had the first experience of visiting Beijing some 15 years before, I realized that while roaming on the streets of Beijing, it makes you believe, it makes you realize that you are almost in America, except for the language. So I described it as my experience was like visiting a Mandarin America. Or even when you go to Tel Aviv, you get an experience that perhaps you are visiting a Hebrew America. So apart from language, there was little to distinguish between America and China or Israel for that matter. At least that was the realization. One may agree, one may disagree with this, but that was the realization. So the point that I'm trying to make is that basically, while influencing the way of the world, a discrete process of Americanization was taking shape. And we find it even today. We have the same kind of products being sold, the same kind of brands dominating the global markets. And therefore, Americanization is a process which we have been experiencing for quite some time. In this context, if we look at what India has as a potential of its soft power, there are some 5 clear points that emerge. Firstly, let me tell you that the experience that you get in Beijing or in Tel Aviv, you do not get either in Delhi or Kolkata, Chennai or Mumbai for that matter, because we have retained the uniqueness of our culture and our identity as well, which is kind of manifested through the way we conduct ourselves as a society and as people. And therefore, in this particular context, if I look at the Indian, the potential of Indian soft power, as I said, there are 5 clear streams that are emerging. I would call them the 5 fundamental pillars of Indian soft power regime, if I may use the term. The first one is the history of India. India, since times immemorial, was never known as a country of aggressors. We never tried to usurp land. We never tried to dethrone kings and establish our regime. And therefore, while we were an economic power, we definitely were a civilizational power, beyond doubt. We continue to be so. But we never established, we were never expansionist in that sense. We were never imperialist in that sense. We never indulged in colonialism in that sense. And therefore, this particular aspect of political history of India, not only in the modern times, but also during the ancient times, is a testimony of the fact that we were never a country of the aggressors. And this is one of the significant aspects of our soft power. That is the reason why in every nook and corner of the globe, Indians are welcome. I have not come across, there might be certain negative impressions about India in certain parts of the globe, I know that. But generally speaking, Indians and India are welcomed in every part of the globe. That is a fact, because we were not known as a country of aggressors. Point number one. Point number two is the tradition, the rich tradition of spiritual democracy that we have evolved. Our country always believed in Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti, which is the ultimate truth. You may call it God, you may call it Allah, you may call it Ishwar, Bhagwan, whatever. That is the same. Only thing is that wise men describe the ways to reach out to that ultimate truth in their own way. And therefore, Ekam Sat Vipra Bahuda Vadanti. This is the fundamental credo, I would say, of our worldview, where we have rejected any kind of hegemonic and much less a monopolistic view of relating to the ultimate superpower. And therefore, this particular thing is something very, very unique about India. You will find that in India, all ways of worship are treated with equal respect. We have never said that this is the only way that will take you to God or that will establish your relationship with the God. There are multiple ways of doing so. We have recognized it. And this spiritual democracy, as what I described, is the fundamental philosophical tenet that India and Indians have been believing in. It provides a sound footing of to our political democracy, on the basis of which, as what Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar and others had envisaged, we are now marching towards establishing a social and economic democracy as well. So spiritual democracy is the second pillar. The third pillar is our tradition and our evolution as a knowledge society. Although in certain parts of the globe, there is an impression that India is a land of snake charmers. But I think India is equally known as a land which motivated Fahian, Al-Biruni, and Yuan Tsang to visit India. Because India was known for universities like Takshashila and Nalanda. The contribution of Indian scientists, Indian mathematicians, Indian grammarians, it's something very, very unparalleled. As you know, that the grammarian who structured the linguistics of Sanskrit and Persian is the same person, and he is known as Maharshi Panini. And therefore, he is revered even in countries like Iran and wherever Persian language is in practice. And therefore, India's rich tradition as a knowledge society is the third important pillar of our soft power. The fourth one is our social system and our family system. When I say social system, what I mean to suggest is that we were never known as a society which is pursuing an ultra-individualistic way of thinking. We were never individualistic. At the same time, we were never a socialistic country in that sense. And therefore, while we believed in social justice, we believed in the concept of Antyodaya, which was propounded by Mahatma Gandhi and Deen Dayal Upadhyaya as well. But we established that an individual relates himself or herself with the society the way a part of our body relates with the entire body. And this particular definition of relationship is something very unique about India. And that is why in India, we celebrate individuality and we respect collectivism as well. This balance, I think, is something very, very unique about Indian worldview. So this is as I said, the fourth pillar. And in this, I would also incorporate our family values, because it is in India that we respect every other relationship. For example, we have so many cousin brothers. In English, they are described as cousins. In our Indian languages, they have a particular name. If he is your maternal brother or paternal brother, then you have a different reference to him or her. And therefore, this is the uniqueness of recognizing the relationship, at the same time giving a sense that we all are part of one family. The fifth one is our relationship with the nature. We never attempted to kind of control Mother Nature. We were never out to conquer Mother Nature. We always wanted to establish a healthy relationship with nature, because we believed that Mother Nature has given us everything and we have to be grateful to her. Which is why every time after we get out of our beds, there is a tradition of saying, Vishnu Patni Namastubhyam Padasparasham Kshamaswame. We seek forgiveness from Mother Earth that we are touching you with our feet. This is the sublime kind of expression that we use when we relate ourselves with Mother Nature. And therefore, this is the fifth important pillar of our soft power. So this gives the strength of India's soft power. And there are several facets of it. Let me tell you that these 5 fundamentals of soft power are in a way manifested in multiple ways. It starts with our epics, Ramayana and Mahabharata, and we know how they have influenced global thinking, not only in just Southeast Asia, but globally, I would say. There are references that the Meru mountain, which has been described in Ramayana, in fact, is located in somewhere near Tanzania in Africa. So we knew about the world, we knew about the geography from those days, and therefore our epics contribute hugely to our soft power potential. Then, of course, our heritage and our history. We are a country millennia old, and right from ancient history, modern history, Middle Ages, and historical aspects of that particular period of history. All these things are greatly valued, and every other period in the history has contributed in the making of the idea of India. And therefore, our history, our heritage, our historical monuments, they contribute to our soft power very uniquely. The third one is traditional Indian knowledge systems. I would incorporate Ayurveda, Sanskrit, Indology, even smaller things like the way we celebrate our festivals, whether it is Diwali, whether it is any other festival in some regional part of the country. But all these provide us a kind of philosophical base. Our celebrations are not just celebrations, they have a meaning. Even our dances, as you would have realized, that the mudras that we use while expressing in, say, Bharatanatyam or Kathakali, they have a philosophical meaning. It is not just gymnastics. They have a particular meaning with it. They have some connotation in it. And therefore, all these things form a part of our traditional Indian knowledge systems. The fourth is our arts, in which I would incorporate all our performing art, all our fine arts, all our traditional folk arts, whether it is Madhubani painting, whether it is Chanderi sari, Kanjivaram, all kinds of textiles, pottery, all kinds of utensils, and we make them out of several elements. All these things, I believe, metallic and other things, all these things contribute in our rich heritage of arts, and therefore that is the other facet of Indian soft power. And lastly, but of course very important, I would say that it is said that the way of winning the hearts and minds goes via the stomach. And the way Indian culinary and cuisine traditions have made their mark world over, globally, anywhere you go, whether it is in Paris or in Tokyo or in Jakarta or Madrid or in America or in Brazil, everywhere Indian restaurants are making a brisk business because of the taste, because of the gastronomical attraction that they have created. And therefore, our culinary and cuisines also form an important element of our soft power. Friends, let me also tell you that all these things eventually have to be manifested through our conduct. And therefore, Indian people, and I would incorporate all the NRIs also in this, because they are, in a way, the informal ambassadors of this great country in those parts wherever they have made their homes. But then people would conclude, people would have some idea of India by whatever their experience of their interactions with Indians abroad and here as well. And therefore, this is something very, very unique that we have to establish, that all these elements of soft power, our philosophy, our worldview, as I said, our commitment to democratic values, all these things require to be very robustly, very strongly, very effectively manifested through our conduct, as I said, abroad and within the country as well. If that doesn't happen, the strength of our soft power is bound to get diluted. And therefore, it is our responsibility that whatever we are talking, we also have to walk. Whatever we are preaching, we also have to practice. If we don't do that, I believe Indians will not be able to influence the way of the world, influence the thinking of the global community, and there lies the importance of soft power. And how Indians can do that if they really are true to their professional values, true to their civilizational values, how they can do that. I am sitting in an academic environment, and there are many members of the academia here. So let me share a story, an experience-based anecdote, which was shared with me by one of my friends who teaches in an American school there in Florida. He told me he's an Indian. He was earlier teaching here. Later on, his wife, who is a physiotherapist, got some jobs there in America. So they migrated there. And for last maybe 30 years, they are there in America. When I visited him, he took me to his school. And while sharing his experiences of his interactions with the American students, he narrated an incident. He told me that while he was teaching class 10 or 11 students, once he found that a particular student, a lad, male, maybe 15, 16-year-old, was continuously dozing while attending his lecture. And then while the teacher used to wake him up, but he still immediately thereafter used to doze, continuously dozing. This happened for thrice, 4 times. On the 5th day, when our teacher again tried to wake him up by touching his shoulders, the boy got up. And in a very decent way though, but very firmly, he told the teacher, "Sir, teaching is your job. Whether to listen to your lecture or not is my decision." You know, I mean, America is such an individualistic country, and therefore it is my liberty. You teach, I am not obstructing you. Whether to attend your lecture or not, that is my liberty. That is my freedom. I will take a call on that. Don't disturb me. That was in so many words. If not in so many words, that was the message he wanted to give to the teacher. The teacher was a little put off. I mean, this kind of a response he was not expecting. But he decided to go to the root cause as to why the boy was falling asleep off and on. And therefore, once he decided to invite him over a cup of tea in the teacher's common room. And while having tea with the young student, our teacher told him that, "Look, I'm not here to kind of enter into your family life, but I would like to know what is the reason, what is that bothers you, and why do you fall asleep repeatedly? What is the problem?" The boy told him, "Sir, now that you have decided to probe in this issue further, let me share with you that in my family, my mother has now engaged with a different person after her divorce, and there is now a new dad in my family. And the new father is certainly not very happy about my existence, my remaining in the house. And therefore, he is pressurizing me to find a new room in a hostel or some studio apartment which I should be hiring, and I should be moving out of the place where my new dad, along with my mother, wants to stay. Now, I cannot withstand this pressure for long. So I have promised him that within 6 months, I will earn something and find a new place for me to stay. And therefore, I am trying to earn some money by way of working as a dishwasher in a McDonald's joint between 9 in the evening up to 3 o'clock in the morning. So I come home at around 3:30 and I go to my bed early morning. Naturally, at 11 o'clock, when I come to my school, it becomes very difficult for me to remain awake and I fall asleep, which is why I'm dozing. And lastly, the boy told the teacher that, sir, since you have come from India, you had the urge of going to the root cause of this particular thing as to why I'm sleeping. No American teacher will take this much labor. No American teacher will bother himself or herself to go to the root cause because of our ideas of private space and things like that. So this is the impact. This is the difference that Indians perhaps can make because of the idea of relationship. I'm not trying to generalize. This may not happen with every other American teacher, perhaps. There are teachers who also believe in the same values there as well. So please don't misunderstand. But the point that I'm trying to make is that Indians, through our own ideas of relating ourselves with the society, with Mother Nature, definitely can make a big impact. And if we are really in a position to do that, I'm sure there are absolutely no limits to the enhancement of India's soft power. I'm very sure, I'm confident that all of you would also think about as to how, as an individual, as a part of the Indian society, as a citizen of India, can contribute to the Indian soft power. Thank you very much.
Professor Bashabi.
She is mute, I think.
Professor Bashabi.
We'll have to
Yeah.
unmute her.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Sahasrabuddhe, for your enlightening talk, very succinct with the 5 pillars of, if I may say so, wisdom, more or less encapsulating India's soft power, its history, its spirituality, its knowledge system, its social and familial values, and its links with nature. And I'm glad that you brought in the arts and crafts, because we are here at AURO University, where liberal arts and humanities are actually taking forward this seminar. And I think by projecting the best of India, we definitely can connect with the world. And we are talking about a post-coronavirus world and imagining a different world. And maybe India can help in that imaginary and positivity. We can now turn to questions. Are there any questions? So thank you very much, sir. And I think there are quite a lot of responses, but no questions. Okay. There's Professor Janet Wilson, who's here with us, and it's lovely to see you again, Janet. Any questions from the students? Vishakha, you who gave a brilliant
Bashabi,
introduction.
Bashabi, you can see in the question and answer, there are few questions for sir.
There are a few questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, now I can see them.
Yeah. One is from Monica Suri. We can take that.
Okay. So respected sir, this is Monica Suri from School of Business, AURO University. Do you think values will become the prime indicator for measuring performance and productivity of employees in every sector? Though few organizations are following it, but not fully. So at this time of pandemic, employer-employee relationship is standing on values. So what is your view on this? That is the question.
Yeah, it's a very complex situation, and therefore people are finding themselves dealing with, or rather compelled to deal with, very complicated issues, and therefore the answers are not going to be easy, because howsoever humanitarian influence you would like to carry forward with you, practically it may not be possible for everybody. And therefore, I believe mutual understanding, the mutuality and kind of compassion, fellow feeling are the values which, with which perhaps we will be able to face this challenging situation. And therefore, I would suggest that that is what we should be observing and that is what we should be expecting as
well. Okay, there's I think that has answered Monica's question. There are a few more. And that is Dr. Vinay, when will teaching be reaching this situation without any stress? So I think it's a follow-up to the previous question by Bhavesh.
Yeah. Well, I think it is for the entire teaching community to ensure that the dissemination of knowledge becomes a process which has an element of enjoyment as well. I mean, the bliss that we derive out of getting new knowledge, getting new insight will have to be brought at the experiential level. I mean, not from day one that people would enjoy learning, but the instructional design will have to be shaped in such a way that it would be kind of a matter of extreme pleasure and enjoyment for pupils to attend classes. I mean, it starts with that. Why students don't attend classes, as what many teachers observe, especially in colleges, because they find it very boring. One of my teachers in my college used to call those students who never used to attend the classes and stand outside the college campus as outstanding students. So we have many such outstanding students these days, but we should have students who take pleasure in attending the classes, and that entirely, I believe, or rather largely depends on how do we present our lectures, how do we make dissemination of knowledge an enjoyable thing, how do we generate interest in the minds of the students. And it's not an easy thing, I know, and many teachers are also experimenting. They are also very passionate about that, I'm aware, but still I think there is huge scope for improving.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. The next question is from Gohar. Respected sir, you have made a statement that India has never been an imperialistic and colonial power, but I think this is not true, as from the last 70 years, Kashmir is under the control of colonial rule. More than 70,000 people have lost their lives in this unending colonial occupation. Don't you think that it is time that this somewhat similar colonizer and colonized or occupied relationship between India and Kashmir, it doesn't end, I think what the questioner wants to ask is it time to end it?
I respect.
Did you hear me?
Person, yeah. I respect the person who has put this question, but I would suggest very humbly that the questioner should be deeply delving into the history of Kashmir. Jammu Kashmir history will explain you as to how, in fact, Jammu Kashmir was repeatedly invaded by the aggressors. And it was not India that occupied it. It was the other powers that tried to occupy Kashmir. And what we are doing, in fact, is reclaiming. And we want not just the piece of land, but the entire effort of the governments at various points of time. All those efforts were oriented to win over the hearts and minds of the Kashmiris, both in Jammu area, in Ladakh, or in what is known as Kashmir Valley. So India continues to be a country without any aggression kind of design on its agenda.
And there's one more question. What about the absence of a population control policy in India?
Well, that again depends upon how you look at it. I mean, in a pandemic-like situation, we find that perhaps we have been able to more or less, we have fared well in facing this challenge as compared to several other countries. Now, there are various reasons for that. And people are there who also look at our huge population as one of our strengths. I would not comment upon that, but I believe population control and several such issues are a part of a different policy-related debate. When we are discussing soft power, my only emphasis would be on realizing that people have to ensure that the values, our cultural and civilizational moorings are properly reflected in our conduct as a society, as a people, and as an individual.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your answers, and thank you for being with us and for sharing India's soft power and what she can do in the world today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vinay ji. Vinay ji.
Namaskar ji, namaskar.
Namaskar, thank you. Thanks for giving time. And it was a wonderful time and wonderful lecture.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. We shall meet sometime.
Definitely, sir. Definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.